Welcome to Your Business Success Podcast with your host, Hiroo Chothia, where she and her guests explore strategies of how to gain business mastery through growing your revenue as well as your personal time in order to develop a strong and sustainable business.
Okay, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Business Growth Mastery Show, where we showcase 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and subject experts so that they can share their breakthroughs, their successes, and challenges that will help you in your business by emulating their successes and ideally avoiding their challenges. I'm absolutely delighted to have with us Milana Leshinsky, who is our guest today in the second of our two-part series interview, as she meets not only one, but 3 of the criterion for our show, namely the fact that she is a 7-figure entrepreneur, a subject expert, and a thought leader in her own right. So, for those who have just jumped straight into the second interview, I would like to suggest that you go and recommend that you go and listen to that first interview where we explore Milana's early entrepreneurial journey and why and how she created online summits, which continues to this day to be extremely successful, and how she generated her first 6-figure business purely from running those summits. So if that isn't something that's going to encourage you, I don't know what will. So that's in the first interview, and on this interview we are picking up on her entrepreneurial journey and exploring how she co-founded the highly successful joint venture Inside a Circle, which is where she generated her first 7-figure business. And we're then going to explore why that wasn't enough. Why that didn't provide, that 7-figure revenue generation did not provide her with the satisfaction that she had hoped for, and what she did as a result of it. So, a very warm welcome again, Milana. Great to have you back on the show.
Good to be back.
Thank you. And let's start by describing, you were doing online summits, having great success from that. What made you shift into what was termed as the joint venture Inside a Circle? Perhaps you start by explaining briefly what it is and why you made that shift.
Yeah. So JV Inside a Circle was born out of an idea that my business partner approached me with, and I really liked it. And so we jumped right in and immediately experienced massive success. It was the right idea at the right time, in the right market, where we allowed people to partner with each other in a joint venture relationship.
Right.
And I had a lot of fun. It was really great. I saw it as a creative project. And for as long as I see something as creative, I truly enjoy it and get a lot of fulfillment. But there was something else going on as well, and that is as in any relationship, in any dynamic, right? Things happen, and it was no longer really serving me as a person, and it was actually starting to cause some challenges. I actually started experiencing anxiety. I experienced my first panic attacks about 1.5 years into that, building that company, which I didn't even know what it was. I used to call them episodes.
Right.
I didn't know what was happening to me because I never had anything like that. And then somebody suggested to look up panic attacks, and all the symptoms matched up. And so I started exploring that, and eventually I left. But one of the bigger reasons was that the company started becoming very complex. Our initial success with it was, a single offer, single program. We offered it. We ended up with 300 people in the program, made over $500,000 in just a month. It was incredible, right? Simple success, simple sells. But over time, we started adding more products, more team members. By the time I left, we had 17 people in our team to manage to provide work with. We had a live event, which was great. It was part of the initial offer, But from the event, then we started offering other offshoot products and programs. So my life became, a launch, delivery, event, launch, delivery, event.
Right.
And if I really wanted to take a vacation like I used to take, I couldn't do it.
Ah, interesting.
And even when I was able to schedule a week off somewhere with my husband in Dominican Republic, I would be with my laptop, with my notebook, constantly thinking, planning what I'm going to do when I'm going to come back. Life got so complicated, and I don't like complicated.
Right.
And so I made a decision that it was time for me to leave. There were many reasons, like lack of me having that creative outlet, because once the company is created and it's up and running, now it's more in maintenance mode. I no longer felt like my potential, my best abilities were needed or appreciated, for that matter.
Right.
So I kind of started lifting myself out of that partnership. And the final straw were, of course, the panic attacks, because they got to the point where I couldn't really be on a training call without having a panic attack.
Oh,
I had
wow.
no idea why it was happening, but something was off. And 3 years later, almost 3 years later, now I can see that my body was telling me something that my mind wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
I was stressed out, overwhelmed, overworking, over anxious about every single piece in our business. And I craved something different. So
I was going to ask you, what was the pivotal moment when you decided this just wasn't working? Was that the panic attacks? Was that when you stopped and thought, I can't do this any longer? Was that?
It was the panic attacks, but also the relationships within the company that were challenging for me to deal with. And even though we worked with a communication consultant for a few months, what I clearly saw is that things were not changing, and they were not going to change, right? And nobody's to blame. People are different. Chemistry is different between people.
Yeah.
And we ended up having different vision for the company. And so we just decided to...
And that's not surprising. People get together, there's a great idea. And often, as the business grows, the parties concerned have different visions for that and different strategies for dealing with it, and different ways of...
I think that everybody has a different level of activity tolerance. I don't like to have a lot of activity in my life. When I left the company and I started looking at the things that I used to write about and create, I noticed that I've always had a lot of space in my calendar, and I forgot about it. I've always created something new, and I forgot about it. And it took my best friend, who hadn't seen me in 3 years because she moved away and then now came back. She said to me, where's the Milana that I used to know and love? The Milana who would come with her, brilliant ideas to our mastermind group to share and get excited. I completely changed as a person throughout those years.
That's a very, very interesting point, that, you start something, like all of us, with a fair amount of excitement, and you move into it, it grows very quickly. Again, it's not unusual for a good product to escalate in that way, but you may not remain the same in that process, and you have to bear that in mind, or one does not remain the same in that process, and that can have quite a detrimental effect. So what did you do? You decided to leave the business? Yes,
I sold my half of the business to my partner. I decided, it could have been either way. He could have sold his half to me, but I chose to sell my half to him because I was very aware that business required a lot more activity and a lot more time and energy than I was willing to give it, right? And presumably also the impact it was having on your health. And absolutely, I needed a break. I needed for my nervous system to calm down. Because I never had anything like that. I've met people since then that had panic attacks since they were teenagers or children, or they had them as part of their life. And for me, it was a completely brand new thing that I didn't know why they showed up, but I do know why they stopped. Because as I left the high stress environment, which I didn't see it at that time, that's the most fascinating thing for me, is that if you had asked me at that time, are you overwhelmed? Are you stressed? Are you anxious? I would have said to you, no. No, I love it. I'm working from home. It's my business. But once I left, I went, whoa. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was anxious. I was constantly on, always on. And so the day I left my business, the next morning I woke up, it was the day after my birthday. I actually signed the exit agreement on my birthday. I was very excited about that. I woke up and I had no deadlines, no projects, nobody, no joint venture partners to reciprocate. I didn't owe anything to anybody. It was just quiet.
Yeah.
And then I got scared from all that quiet because I was not used to.
I was about to ask you, quiet is great initially, but that can be a bit overwhelming as well.
Since my school, I always went go, 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 go. College, going to America, learn English, get a new profession, become a programmer, have children, get a job, start a business, run a business. And then suddenly there was nothing.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty brash move, you know, not only for someone who has been on the go all the time, for someone who is making substantial amounts of money at this point, wanting to let go of it all.
Well, and that was kind of leading up to it. There was a morning I remember waking up while I was still working in the company. And I thought, you know, what's on my planet today? I guess we're working on the next launch. And is that what my life is going to be like from now on? You know, from launch to launch, from product to product, from event to event. And yes, we were making money, a lot of money, but for whatever reason, it wasn't enough to be a reason for me to wake up.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would wake up way before that business came about, and I would jump to my computer, check my email, start my projects. I was excited, and I found it difficult to wake up, to get up, and to do things that I needed to do. So it became more of a responsibility than my passion.
And not motivating enough.
And I didn't even realize that I reached over $1 million in revenue until my accountant told me about that. And I looked at her and I said, really? When did that happen? She goes, oh yeah, back in October. And we were in April, and I found out that I actually hit over $1 million that year. And it didn't feel like anything that I thought it would feel. It didn't.
It had bypassed you completely because you were so overwhelmed with it all.
I was too busy. I didn't. So what I learned is that to make $1 million, to reach a certain level of income, it's only exciting when it comes with also emotional fulfillment, satisfaction, mental, social, and just money on its own didn't feel exciting. Now I know what some people are thinking who may be watching this. Yeah, let me find out for myself.
Now, when I reach that, let me know, and I might agree with you.
I'll let you know how it feels. I'm telling you that I was a lot more excited and celebrational when I hit 6 figures.
Yeah.
I took my whole family to the best restaurant in Baltimore. Because I was so excited. It was 6 figures, $100,000, over $100,000. It was completely different feeling when I reached $1 million.
And you're certainly not the first person to have said that to me, because I've worked with clients who have hit 7 figures and have first of all not gained any satisfaction from that other than knowing that that money was in the bank. And I'm talking about people who have made profit of 1 million, you know, not just revenue of 1 million, but even for them, that wasn't enough because they weren't in a happy state. Their mindset wasn't such that they were appreciative of that. because other things were going on in their lives, just as you're mentioning.
Well, there are certain things happen that require you to sustain that level of activity in a business like that.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, my body was not able to sustain that. And as I was talking to many other people after I left, they were saying to me, oh my God, I'm so jealous of you being able to just walk away from it all. I wish I could do it.
Yeah.
Because that level to sustain at that level of activity,
Yeah.
It's the chase, the pushing, the grinding, constant work. It's not easy to sustain. And, you know, I still had children in the house. I'm still a wife, a mother, a person, and I wanted to have a life outside of business, and I didn't have it for the last couple of years.
And unfortunately, you've hit some on the head, you know, something that's very relevant in business, especially in the society we live in, whether it's in the US, UK, Europe, wherever. We see, and to lesser degrees in different areas, but nonetheless, the pattern is that you make 6 figures and you can't possibly stop, you've got to make 7. And you make 7, you can't possibly stop, you've got to make 8. Well, for a lot of people, although I do this mastery show with individuals like Milana on, who have made and had these successes, we are not saying if you've made 7, you've got to go to 8. We're not saying if you've made 6, you've got to go to 7. The point is, if you do decide to go down that route, recognize that there are going to be some issues you're going to have to deal with. And just having the money in the bank and just pressing on with these high sums isn't going to be necessarily the answer, as Milana has just identified. So you left, then what?
And I decided to make a list of all the things that I wanted to do, sort of my bucket list, and haven't had time to do. And I ended up with a list of 100 things, on my list, including taking a train ride somewhere, because I missed riding trains. I used to do that a lot in Ukraine. Attending a live rehearsal of an orchestra, which I actually did go to.
Fantastic.
Sleep in. Watch a lot of TV. Watch TV shows, catch up on the shows that I've loved and missed, and just be able to do things without a rush and a hurry. I enrolled myself into yoga, learned to meditate. I hired a life coach as opposed to business coach. I had never had a life coach up until that point. So I always put my business for my life.
It's very much taking care of you.
Yes, I really focused on
taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. But I couldn't be idle for too long. And in a few weeks, I started thinking up new business ideas. I hired a business coach from my past because I felt like she really knew me and she could advise me as to how to move forward, kind of realign myself. And so it was too soon. The ideas I was coming up with were too reactive. The situation I left, like I'm going to do this. I can do this and that. I can, and as I continue to pursue and come up with different ideas, they all came with a sense of complexity for me. I was like, but I need to build it big again, and I don't want to do that. It's going to take a lot of space in my life again. I want a business that doesn't take a lot of space in my life because I want to have a life. I love to dance. I've been dancing, Latin dancing and ballroom dancing for 5 years now. I want to do more of that. I want to travel a little more. My last trip, I went to UK, Germany, and Italy, and that was 5 years ago. I haven't traveled since then. So there's so many things I want to do as part of my life. So I wanted a business that would take half of my life, not all of my life, like the previous business. And so
it's a very clear direction that gap gave you about what you wanted and what you didn't want in your life, more importantly. And then what did you do?
And then I attended an event that I would typically event, a typical marketing event. And I was sitting with a friend there and watching the speaker and watching the audience. And suddenly I had this moment of woo-woo where I felt like I elevated over the audience and I was watching everybody. And I heard this voice like, this is too complex. These people are never going to implement even a fraction of it. They're going to go home overwhelmed. And this guy is speaking about the same things. It's like oh my God, it's 1999 again. It's the same things. I got really
over and over. Yeah.
Over and over again, like that feeling that I don't want to be here. And as I left, I wrote down on my napkin, simplicity circle, because I craved more simplicity. And I didn't know what simplicity was yet at that time. I started doing a little bit more research, but I stumbled on this whole idea of simplicity entrepreneurship, where you can grow and scale your business while keeping it simple, where you can grow and be profitable without sacrificing your health, your relationships, your life. So Simplicity Circle was born. I knew how to take people from complexity to simplicity, but I didn't have a process yet. It came later. And then I wrote a book called Simplicity, the Simplicity Principle, how to succeed in this new economy when everything is so complex. There's thousands of solutions. How do you know what solutions are right for you?
And which route to take?
Yes.
When so many are on offer.
So since then, I have created a very simplicity-driven business. I work very little, which
music to my ears.
It brought me back to the way my life was before the previous company. The things that I do are very much aligned with my natural abilities and my super skills, as I call them, where results come with ease. And I actually have developed a 5-step process to help people bring their business into complete 100% focus, so they know exactly what their next step should be to grow their business without complexity. And so that's kind of where I am today.
So that's fantastic. What you've done is you took time out, you reassessed your own position, you decided it was that you wanted the simplicity model, and now you have replicated that for your clients effectively.
Absolutely, yes. And the process that I went through, I hadn't coached people in a long time. And then I thought, if I am to develop this new process that I really believe in, but I need to test it. I offered one-on-one coaching for the first time in years. Because I don't typically work with clients one-on-one. I do groups, I do courses, I do membership. But I took 3 coaching clients and I conducted a full month of coaching sessions with them, plus a few other conversations that I had with people. I wanted to test my process. And the results were really, really amazing, because people were telling me that the process that I have put them through, if they were exposed to it years ago, their business would have looked completely differently today.
Sure.
Very impactful. In fact, I'm not afraid to say that this is probably the best process or program I've ever developed in my 20 years of business. So I guess that those panic attacks had a purpose.
I'm hearing, and I'm so pleased to hear what you said about simplicity. I mean, not just that, because I knew you were going to address it, and that's why I wanted to showcase this element on the show, because it's been a pillar of what I advocate in all my work and my coaching work with my clients, because I see so many people complicating things unduly. And often they're not even aware that they're complicating them, because just as you said in the JVIC involvement, before you knew it, the train was running away. It was all running away with, and you were having to keep on catch up, a launch and then back to another program and a launch, another program. And that's very, very common. So, this is a great message that we're hearing. What was the most surprising thing that you've learned on your journey?
I have experienced some sort of a personal transformational shift where money is no longer the holy grail of my business existence.
Excellent.
And where I would say yes to many projects in the past because of how profitable they are. Now I look at every project, at every opportunity from the perspective of, will I have fun? will I find that I'm appreciated for that project? Because that's very important to me. If I'm appreciated, that means that I'm using my best abilities to impact somebody or something. Does it allow me to maintain my peace of mind and my simplicity-driven lifestyle that I so crave? So I look at those things, and if it's profitable, yay, that's cherry on top.
An added bonus.
First thing.
Yeah.
And so something definitely shifted for me, because I'm noticing I'm getting rid of about 50 books from my library. And these are books that I would have never let go just about a year ago. I would have treasured them. These were business books, how to make money, money talks, $1 million business, you know. And what is remaining on my bookshelves are books around lifestyle balance, a business and a life.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that, so I learned that it's okay if I don't make $1 million this year.
Yeah.
I might still make $1 million in the future.
Yeah.
But at the moment, you know, I am becoming an empty nester in 50 days.
Oh.
And I'm treasuring this time. And who knows where my life is going to take me.
Absolutely.
In 50 days, right?
And more likely to make your million, if my experience is anything to go by, when you let go.
Exactly.
You're much more likely to make it, and more likely to make it quickly when you've let go of that. When it's not driving every decision.
I also learned that success and growth lies somewhere between the ease and effort. And I learned that from yoga, actually.
Yeah.
Because when I came to my first yoga class, my first few classes, as an A personality, as an overachiever, I was like, I'm gonna get that stretch, even if it kills me.
We've all been there.
And I would go home and I was hurting.
Yeah, lots.
So I learned that yoga is an individual sport. It's not a group activity.
No.
And business is the same way. You cannot look at someone else and say, but they're making $5 million. Why am I not making that much money? But they're using this strategy and it works for them. Why shouldn't I use it? Completely off.
Lovely analogy. Lovely
You
analogy.
want to really look at what will work for you.
Yeah.
And not follow the guru just because they're successful, because you don't know their journey.
No.
You don't know in yoga, you don't know their body.
And you don't know the challenges that they have faced. Most people won't be so open as you've been, but you won't know that when you just see their success and that you want
Exactly. You don't see the journey that they went through. Maybe they had to travel 300 days out of a year on the road. Maybe they were just divorced. Maybe they just had lived through cancer. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't talk about their challenges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so your number one tip for listeners, especially given what we've just talked about.
Let's see. I would say that most people in business feel overwhelmed. And regardless of where you are, whether you have a 5-figure business or an 8-figure business, that is the constant. When you own a business, you're typically overwhelmed. Best way to manage your overwhelm, or even to never even get to the point of overwhelm, is to not allow complexity to enter your business in the form of other people telling you what to do, or watching other people doing something that you feel like you need to implement because they're implementing, or following a blueprint that worked for somebody else. FOMO, fear of missing out, that brings a lot of complexity, right? And my favorite tip is, you can achieve everything. You can do it all, but one thing at a time.
Yeah.
When I shared that, somebody told me that Oprah said that. And no, Oprah said that about something else. I'm saying that about business.
Yeah.
You can do it all, just do it one thing at a time. And
very, very valid point.
There's a lot of simplicity thinking that I have acquired over time, and that's what I teach. that simplicity mindset really helps me stay in my zone of simplicity and just love my life and business so much more.
And we can hear it in your voice. Absolutely hear it in your voice. So a couple of takeaways, as we always do at the end of the show, as we approach the end. So again, so many, but 2 or 3 that really stick out for me. What was really, really important was to recognize that you were highly stressed, but it wasn't even apparent to you at the time. So stress is going to manifest itself in very, very different ways, and you need to be very aware of those aspects when you're running a business. And the other thing Milana said was that to make $1 million was only exciting when it came with emotional satisfaction. Could not agree more. You know, you could keep adding money in the bank, but is it making you happy? Is it making you feel fulfilled? And thirdly, she said, what I loved was that where that bridge is between success and growth. And she very well gave us the sort of analogy between ease and effort, using the yoga analogy, which I think is a great one to hold on to. And finally, that irrespective of where you are in your business, you need that mindset that is not just about making money, because that is not going to get you the satisfaction in your business, clearly. For some people, they are money driven, but even that is a limited time in any person's business journey. And when you start making money less central to your decision-making basis, that's when you get the real breakthroughs, as has been very evident by Milana's experiences that she shared with us. So as we come to the end, once again, Milana has been very kind in offering us some resources to help you through this. She already referred to her book, The Simplicity Principle, A New Way to Thrive in Today's Business Market, or I should say. And Milana has very kindly agreed to make that available to the listeners of this show. Milana, a little bit from you about the book?
Yeah, so if you go to simplicitycircle.com, you'll be able to grab a downloadable copy of that book. It really talks about the different ways that we bring complexity into our businesses and how to watch out for that, and how to avoid it, these complexity traps. As you go to the simplicitycircle.com, you'll also find a simplicity business quiz. As I was saying, that you may not know that you are in that place of complexity right now. And when you take the quiz, it tells you, are you on the brink of burnout, and not know it? So it'll ask you really important questions about your business and where you are with it. And it'll definitely help you with the next steps. So simplicitycircle.com is where you can find it.
Brilliant. Not one, but 2 fabulous resources. And we will put that in the show notes as well. So once again, Milana, leaves me to say a huge, huge thank you for being a great guest on the show, for your generous time of being involved in not one, but the 2-part interview series, sharing all your very practical and readily implementable sort of tips and techniques, as well as being really, really candid about your entrepreneurial journey. I want to just say a huge thank you for all your efforts today and in the previous interview, and wish you every success with your simplicity model.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to share my journey with your audience, and really love being on your show, Hiroo. Thank you.
Thank you. And to the listeners, until the next time when we meet again on the Business Growth Mastery Show, I wish you every success in your business. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. Join us again next time when Hiroo and her guests will help you to understand how to gain business mastery so that you too can develop a strong and sustainable business. In the meantime, you can find more information at growyourbusinesssuccessfully.net.